Welcome to our art studio. Today in our studio, we're going to take what we learned about Tracy and her quilt making and we're going to apply it to our own work of art. Now, because sewing involves needles and scissors and machines and all of those things are pretty stabby, we're going to be doing ours with paper instead. By the end of your project, you are going to have your very own quilt block. We are going to then take all of our quilt blocks together. We're going to scan them into the computer and make a giant community quilt, all part of our creative neighborhood. Today we're going to be working on the planning part of that. Your teacher is going to bring to you a page called the thumbnail page. That's kind of a weird thought, but it's an art term that you need to know. When an artist talks about their thumbnail, they're not talking about the actual thumbnail. They're talking about a tiny, small practice sketch, and that's what we're going to do on this page. Remember, thumbnail means quick practice page. So it needs to be tidy enough that I know what's going on, but I'm not going to spend 2 hours on this. Most important step, I'm gonna put my name on the top. There we go. And my last name. Let's do that. Now, I have a grid here. In this, I'm going to think of some designs, and we have some there at the top for you. Those are abstract designs where you take a shape and you repeat them. So in that repeating sequence of triangles and squares, you start to get a rhythm and a balance that happens as it moves through the quilt block. I want to show you a bigger example. If you look at this student designed quilt block, you'll see that you can actually cut this in half and fold it over. That's called a symmetrical balance. You can do that from any direction. We also have a beautiful repetition of color that happens. So each one of our corners is green. When you have something repeated, it actually starts to make a pattern, and repeated patterns make a rhythm. So let's look at our rhythm that happens around as we go. We're going to go in a circle. That's a big word called radial symmetry. So let's look at it. We go blue, teal, blue, teal, blue, teal, all the way around. So on your thumbnail page, remember, not made of thumbnails, I'm going to do a quick sketch and pick one of these designs just to keep things simple and get myself used to the idea of what we're doing of a very traditional quilt block. So I'm going to go with the first example that we have on there. That's a series of triangles that point up and then they point to the right and then they point down and then they point to the left. So in traditional quilt making, all of these blocks and patterns have a name. In this particular one, this is actually called the goose, and the small triangles in the corner are little pieces of sky, because they tell a story. And so my next step is, so that I can see this easier, it's going to help me if I can choose some colors and fill those in. I'm not locked into these colors. If I find some other paper that I like better later, I can change them. But for right now, I'm going to make my big triangles red. I'm going to make the sky portion my blue violets. I'm gonna make the smaller inside ones yellow. Again, these are quick practices. I'm only throwing in color just to give me an idea how to cut my paper. I'm not worried about being nice and tidy on this at all. Is it starting to make sense now? Can you see the quilt block and the design starting to form? Do you see the directional movement that I have? What if we divided it right down the middle? We have this fun balance that happens as it folds over. Now I want to think about background colors, and that's where I'm going to put my blue violets. My crayon's kind of blue, not the color of my paper, but it will work just fine. Because again, what I'm doing right now is I'm brainstorming in this thumbnail process. So if I decide to change my colors altogether, totally fine. Next color, I want to put in a little bit of yellow. Are you shocked by how messy I've colored this? It's all about planning and it's all about speed in this phase, because I don't want this to be precious. I want it to go fast. So we have our completed design, right? It's geometric, it's abstract. We can use all our big words about repetition. But I know that some of you are probably Minecraft fans, and so you are already leaps and bounds ahead because you know how to do already what Tracy did when she showed you her dog picture that she turned into a quilt block. It's what you do in Minecraft. You take an image and you pixelate it and put it into geometric shapes, right? So I want you to, on that second idea box down below, give your hand at that. Pick an animal or a cupcake or a house or something fun that you want to do. I'm going to make mine a butterfly. And there we go. I've got my butterfly. She's ready to go. And I have two great ideas that I'm going to get to pick from. And so that wraps up the phase 1 of our planning for the block party. I can't wait to see you next time when we take your plans and turn them into final projects.